Life is often compared to a great river that flows through the banks of time. Living is like navigating that river. We are born into our parents' boats. We grow up in a river defined by our parents' lives. If our parents have happy lives, our lives tend to have happy head starts. If our parents have lives that handle the river well, we have good models upon which to build our own lives. But if our parents have leaky lives, we tend to spend the rest of our lives bailing. The lives we build usually resemble our parents' lives. After all, we build them based upon the designs we grew up with, using whatever happened to float by. Too often only prayer and determination hold our lives together. Eventually, we must learn to build and navigate our own lives, often without coming ashore. If we survive, we begin to notice other individuals, and we want to share a piece of ourselves with them. We get caught up in the journeys of other people, and we forget which way the river intends for us to go. The world has become full of people building their own boats and navigating an ever more turbulent stream. No wonder we so often crash. We need to take a step back and take a look at the river. Learn to read its secrets. When do we paddle hard? When do we let the currents take us? When do we pull up to the bank and survey the stream? This program offers 14 rules for navigating the river called life. Take one rule at a time, give it 1 week's strict attention, and leave everything else to its ordinary chance. Taken together, these rules make for a worthwhile ride. Let's begin with a story. A fool insisted on riding the river backwards. Because of his experience and training, he believed that the best way to navigate was by steering away from the boats behind him. Every few days, he would crash into a boat in front of him and yell, "Why don't you look where you're going?" And so he kept crashing, wondering why the river was so full of fools. Einstein once defined insanity as expecting to solve any problem from the same level of thinking that you were at when you created it. In other words, if you're expecting tomorrow to get any better without changing yourself today, you're an idiot. By that definition, how many of us need our heads examined? We know that something's missing in our lives, but we keep waiting for someone else to fix our problems. We keep hammering away at the same problems with the same hammers, and then we wonder why nothing changes. We do exactly what we did yesterday, and we hope tomorrow will get better. Have you ever heard the expression, God only helps those who help themselves? The cause of the confusion isn't laziness, but frustration. We all want to help ourselves, but too often we don't know how to get started. We see only problems. We don't always see where our problems came from in the first place. In order to solve problems, we need to understand the nature of cause and effect. Cause and effect simply states that for every effect on the river there is a specific cause or causes. In other words, any situation that you experience in your life is the effect of something that caused it. If you can uncover the cause of a situation, then you can effectively change that situation. But if you try to change a situation without clearly understanding that situation's cause, you can waste a lot of energy fixing the wrong things before you sit down exhausted, wondering why nothing has changed. One of my students of the river was so frustrated with her husband that she was considering leaving him. She wanted to know what I thought, so I asked her to explain the specific cause of her frustration. "He always expects me to do everything," she told me. "I always have to pick up after him. He never picks up anything for himself. He comes home, opens a bag of chips, eats two, and leaves the bag on the table for me to pick up. I've tried talking to him, but he doesn't care what I want. He tells me to just hire a maid, but I don't want to waste money on a maid. Besides, what maid will follow around behind him picking up his messes? A maid only comes once a week." I asked her, "You want him to pick up after himself?" "Yes." "You've talked to him about what you want?" "Every day." "You've been married for 8 years. For 8 years you've been saying the same thing, and for 8 years he has not been paying attention. Yes! Well, no wonder she was frustrated. So I said to her, if explaining to him what you wanted the first time didn't create the effect you wanted, and the second time didn't create the effect you wanted, and the third and the fourth, then what makes you think that explaining to him what you want the 1,000th time will create a different effect? As she realized her own illogic, she actually started to giggle. We figured it out. She had made the same presentation to the same person over 24,000 times, and each time she'd received the same response. Her experience was a classic case of cause and effect. She hadn't changed her presentation, so she had no reason to expect a different effect. Her husband defined her actions as nagging, and she nearly believed him. But I define nagging as misunderstanding the nature of cause and effect. If your boat keeps crashing, then perhaps you should redesign your boat. And if you want a different effect on someone, then perhaps you should change your presentations. The only way to get people to pick up their socks is to make them want to pick up their socks. And while people will seldom pick up their socks for your reasons, they will sometimes pick up their socks for their own reasons. In order to get the effect she wanted, my student needed to learn the rules of the river. Rules like persuasion and communication. Rules that certainly do not advocate making the same ineffective presentations twice. At this point in my story, people always interrupt to ask, what did she do? They want to know her technique so they can run home and try it for themselves. Well, here for the record is what she did. She stopped swimming against the current. She stopped trying to change her husband, and she learned to change herself. Eventually, she learned to use the rules of the river to examine and uncover the real cause of her unhappiness. She learned to redefine herself as more than her family's caretaker. She learned to reflect, focus, and strategize before taking action. She learned to allocate her resources and to understand process. She took control of her life. She stopped giving energy to what she hated, and she started giving energy to what she loved. She began to attract, nurture, understand, and influence the people around her. She learned to read the river's currents and to let life flow. She even learned to use creative delegation and turned her husband's clutter into a game for her kids. But most importantly, she stopped looking for happiness in the circumstances around her, and she learned to discover happiness inside herself. Eventually, my student did find satisfaction, but only when she stopped trying to change the river and she started learning to navigate it. The biggest frustrations encountered on the river usually manifest when we attempt to change how people respond to us. We can't change people into what they're not. However, the moment we stop trying to change people, we begin finding the energy to change ourselves. And when we begin to change ourselves, we automatically change the circumstances wherein we find ourselves. People waste so much energy focused on the wrong end of problems. Stop fixing problems. People can't fix problems. Problems are effects. They are the natural result of something that was done to cause them. However, change the cause of a problem, and the problem will sometimes take care of itself. So what causes problems? Failure to persuade, failure to communicate, misunderstanding, fear, doubt, blame, unwanted advice, expecting people to change for your reasons, misinterpreting cause and effect, and not understanding the rules of the river. When you learn to fix the cause of a problem, you will fix that problem's effect. Of course, there is a catch. This rule only helps you to solve problems if you can determine where your actions contribute to those problems. Any problem that you can't influence by your actions is not your problem. Any problem that you can't influence by your actions is a fact of life, so you might as well get over it. That's right. A problem is only a problem when you can do something about it. Everything else is a fact of life, so get over it. In other words, why doesn't so-and-so love me is not your problem. Well, why am I letting the situation affect me so much is your problem. Nobody listens to me is not your problem. Well, how can I explain this so people will want to listen is your problem. What other people think, say, or do is not your problem. Well, what you think, say, or do is your problem. Can you see the difference? The only way to change something is to change the cause of that something. So if you want to affect the river, you need to keep peeling away at the causes of things until you find a cause for which you're responsible, and then find a way to affect that cause. Only then will your actions be worthwhile. So what's the bottom line on cause and effect? You need to practice examining your life. Don't just wait for success. Ask yourself what actions will cause your success. Don't just hope for happiness. Ask yourself what actions will cause your happiness. Don't just dream about a perfect future. Ask yourself what actions will bring about that future. And most of all, don't just complain about your life without examining the causes of your complaints. If you can identify and influence those causes, then you can begin to design a different effect. The answers to your questions may not come right away. Don't worry. For now, it's enough to ask the questions. Your ability to change the causes of things requires that you understand and incorporate all the rules of the river. But the rest of the rules are useless unless you first understand the nature of cause and effect. People who do not understand cause and effect say things like, if men were intended to fly, they would have wings. But people who do understand cause and effect look at birds flying and think, if birds can fly, then so can I. All it takes is understanding the cause of flight. What causes flight? Not wings, but the effect that wings have on air. Simulate that effect, and you're flying to Paris. So how do you put this rule into action? You need to practice examining your thoughts and beliefs regarding cause and effect. Whenever you consciously examine your thoughts, you begin to detect the correspondence between your beliefs and how you experience the river of life. Start by asking yourself to explain the circumstances around you, and don't just accept the easy answers. So here's your homework for this week. I'd like you to find yourself a journal or a composition book or any kind of notepad that makes you feel happy, and begin making a list of the various situations in your life. The first list should be of things you absolutely love, things that keep you happy and excited and full of joy. The second list should be of things you absolutely hate, things you want to get out of your life, things that frustrate you, anger you, keep you blocked, and keep you off course. Next, once you have that list, start looking for the causes of each thing. For those things that you love, ask yourself, what's keeping you from it? What keeps you from getting those things you adore? Next to the things you hate, ask yourself, what's keeping you stuck here? Ask yourself what's holding you back. It's important as you do this that you do not look for solutions yet. Simply look for causes. What are the causes holding you back? What are the causes keeping you from what makes you joyous? What are the causes that keep you off course? We'll be looking for solutions as we explore the next few lessons. But now it's important to find the causes. For example, suppose one of the reasons you're being held back is you're lazy, or someone around you is lazy. Well, there are many causes of laziness. Sometimes it's depression, diet, physical ailment. Well, we'll be dealing with solutions to those problems in our lessons on entropy. But then again, perhaps your laziness or their laziness is because they're discouraged, or they feel pointless, uncertain, frustrated. Maybe they feel they make no significant contribution. Maybe they feel they have no say in what happens to them. Maybe they feel unrecognized by their efforts, or they feel taken for granted. Or maybe they're just satisfied with everything the way it is, and they just want life to stay the same. These are causes, and we'll be dealing with solutions to these causes in our lessons on vacuum, strategy, and personal growth. In all, there are 14 lessons within this course. They include the power of cause and effect, which we've just covered. They also include the power of belief, the power of reflection, the power of focus, the power of strategy, the power of vacuum, the power of process and growth, the power of responsibility, the power of contribution, the power of attraction, the power of entropy, the power of communications and understanding, the power of persuasion and influence, and finally the power of least effort. Let me assure you that over the upcoming lessons we will absolutely be looking for solutions to every cause that you uncover this week. But the power of cause and effect says that if we try to change a situation without clearly understanding that situation's cause, we waste a lot of effort fixing the wrong things. And we end up sitting down exhausted, wondering why nothing is changed. This week is about understanding cause, not looking for solutions. Simply look around you and wonder, what brings this about? What causes this situation? Whether it's something you love or something you hate, something you want or something you want removed. This week, simply look for the causes of the situations you find yourself in. We'll use the rest of the rules to get our life back on course. To learn more about Navigating Life's online video courses, please visit the following website. Once there, you will find links to the paperback, hardback, and digital versions of this course's companion book, A River Worth Riding, 14 Rules for Navigating Life. You will also find links to our Ask the Navigator blog, our video discussion groups and schedule, our mailing list, and much more. If you'd like to contact Navigating Life directly, you can email us at dearnavigator@gmail.com. Until our next lesson, may you have a worthwhile ride.